A very good morning to the students of class 11 and also the students of class 12. Today we are going to take up the last poem in your syllabus for IAC English in class 11, and name of the poem is The Spider and the Fly, written by a very famous female poet of the 18th century. On your screen you can see the sketch or the painting of the poet, and now I'm going to show you the real photograph. The real photograph of the poet is now on your screen, and she is Mary Botham Howitt. She was born in 1799 and died in 1888. Before we begin with the poem, let's read a bit of an introduction of the poem and the poet from first your workbook, and then maybe a little bit from your textbook. So on your screen you can see The Spider and the Fly by Mary Botham Howitt. Introduction. Mary Howitt was an English poet and author of the famous poem The Spider and the Fly. She was born Mary Botham at Colford in Gloucestershire, England on March the 12th, 1799. That means the last of the 18th century. She had three brothers and sisters, and her father, Samuel Botham, a prosperous Quaker of Uttoxeter, Staffordshire, looked after some mining property. So whatever be the family background, what is more relevant is she was educated at home. She used to read a lot and began writing at a very early age. In 1822, she married William Howitt. The literary instincts of each were sharpened by their constant companionship, and together they wrote over 180 books. So she and her husband both were writers, both were poets. Some of the independent works are Sketches of Natural History, published in 1834, Birds and Flowers and Other Country Things, 1838, and so on. You can just have a look at your workbook and you can just go through. Let's come to the poem. The Spider and the Fly is a fable that depicts, it's a fable in verse. Just remember that it's a fable in verse. What's a fable? A fable is a story in which animals are found to be talking and behaving like human beings. So, very famous fable writer of yesteryears happens to be Aesop, and many of you have read Aesop's fables. So this poem is also a kind of fable, because here you have two non-humans, a spider and a fly, and they are interacting with each other, talking to each other, just as human beings do. So a fable in verse. So The Spider and the Fly is a fable that depicts a common human weakness of being easily enticed by flattery. Now that is the most common human weakness, that we as human beings, we very easily fall for flattery. People flatter us and then we start listening or believing to their words. So the same thing happens in this poem. The spider cordially invites the fly into the parlor. Parlor means living room or drawing room, and promises interesting things to see, a comfortable bed and food to eat. The fly, even being aware of the spider's cunning, falls into his trap. And then what happens? Obviously, the fly is eaten by the spider. So once again here you can see the introduction from your textbook this time. Mary Botham Howitt, 1799, 1888, born Mary Botham, etc., etc. So you can get some extra details about her life here, and her works are also discussed here, around 180 books on various subjects. And then during her day, she knew everybody who was anyone on the literary scene, from William and Dorothy Wordsworth to Charles Dickens, and counted poet laureate Alfred Tennyson as a neighbor. She also campaigned against the slave trade, managed to travel to Scandinavia, Austria, Italy, Germany. So you can say she explored spiritualism. So Mary Bottom Havitt, she was the most happening thing, the very advanced and most happening of the female poets of the 18th century, 18th and 19th century. So this poem first appeared in 1834, that is the second quarter of the 19th century. And then this is a poem basically she wrote to educate children, to make them realize about the natural world. It's a cautionary tale about the manner in which the innocent and gullible can be won over by the wily and shrewd predators who abound in society. So the spider represents those predators who target innocent lives. So children are being educated through this poem to be careful and always be on the lookout for such predators and not fall for their flattering words. The poem reads like a fantasy or fable, as the spider and the fly both act and behave like human beings. Ultimately, they act as metaphors for certain types of people who exist in society. So next we come to the theme of the poem. Now, talking about the theme of the poem, the spider and the fly depicts the common human weakness of being taken over by flattering comments. The poem reveals that flattering words trick you to such an extent that, forgetting everything else, you move towards your ruin. And that is exactly what happens with the spider, or rather the fly, because when the spider keeps on flattering the fly ultimately falls into the trap laid by the spider for it, and ultimately ruins its own life. So the tale tells us of a cunning spider who traps a knave fly. Knave means unsuspecting, simple, straightforward. A knave fly through the use of seduction and flattery. So the fly is female and the spider male. So we can also say that the poet tries to warn not just children not to fall prey to such predators, but also to women. Remember, Mary Bottom Havitt, being a female herself, she also writes this to warn beautiful, unsuspecting young females to be careful about such male predators. So let's see. Mary Havitt depicts that flattery is so powerful that people turn towards it even after knowing its consequences. The fly states repeatedly that she has often heard many tales of poor victims that go up the winding stairs or rest upon the spider's web but never return. But the spider has lot of experience in attracting creatures to its web. The spider knows the power that flattery has over someone, and thus is sure that the fly would return to its den. The spider tries pretty things that are the spider tries several temptations in order to get the fly to its parlor, such as offering pretty things that are up the winding stair. But he saves his best bait for the last. He artfully makes use of flattering words to bring the fly back again. The spider calls her sweet and exclaims, "How handsome are your gauzy wings! How brilliant are your eyes!" So you can go through the theme in detail. The style, you have structure and rhyme. The poem has 7 stanzas that tell the story. The first 4 stanzas have 6 lines each. The next 2 have 8 lines each, and the last stanza comprises 4 lines. Actually, there is a printing error here. It should be last stanza comprises 4 lines. Now, the story is told in verse form, creates a greater impact on the reader's mind, cautions human beings against the power of flattery. Again and again, it's the same theme which comes out. So, the poem employs rhyme efficiently, like fly, spy, vain, again. So, you have rhyming words used in almost every stanza. So, then the rhyme scheme is explained. Then you have some devices. You have aphorism. Then you have some poetic devices. You can just go through from your workbook. Poetic devices include simile, anaphora, repetition, alliteration. Most of these things you already know and have come across in different other poems. So let's now give a quick reading to the text of the poem first, and then let us try to understand line by line what the poem tells us. The Spider and the Fly by Mary Botham Howitt. Will you walk into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. 'Tis the prettiest little parlor that ever you did spy. The way into my parlor is up a winding stair, and I have many pretty things to show when you are there. Oh, no, no, said the little fly. To ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can never come down again. I'm sure you must be weary, dear, with soaring up so high. Will you rest upon my little bed? Said the spider to the fly. There are pretty curtains drawn around, the sheets are fine and thin, and if you like to rest a while, I'll snugly tuck you in. Oh, no, no, said the little fly, for I've often heard it said, they never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed. Said the cunning spider to the fly, dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I've always felt for you? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice. I'm sure you're very welcome. Will you please to take a slice? Oh, no, no, said the little fly. Kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what's in your pantry, and I do not wish to see. Sweet creature, said the spider, you're witty and you're wise. How handsome are your gauzy wings, how brilliant are your eyes. I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you will step in one moment, dear, you shall behold yourself. I thank you, gentle sir, she said, for what you're pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly, and set his table ready to dine upon the fly. Then he came out to his door again, and merrily did sing, come hither, hither, pretty fly, with pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple, there's a crest upon your head. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. Alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, hearing his wily, flattering words, came slowly flitting by. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue. Thinking only of her crested head, poor foolish thing at last, up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. He dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den within his parlor, but she never came out again. And now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you never give heed. Unto an evil counselor, close heart and ear and eye, and take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. So that's the text of the poem. Most of it is quite easy, though it was composed way back in 1830s and published in 1834. The language is simple, lucid, and the meaning of the poem is quite easy to understand. Now let us take up line by line, stanza by stanza, and try to once again analyze this poem. So beginning now with the first stanza. Will you walk into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. Very simple line. The spider is requesting or asking in a very polite and gentle manner whether the fly would walk into his living room or his drawing room. "'Tis the prettiest little parlour that ever you did spy." So it is the prettiest little parlour that you have ever seen. Spy means seen. "The way into my parlour is up a winding stair." So you have to go up a winding staircase, that is a staircase which goes around and round to reach my parlour. Now you have seen the spider's web. It has concentric circles inside it. As you go round and round, you come to the center of the web. So the winding staircase can be considered as the web of the spider. "And I have many pretty things to show when you are there." So he is making promises of showing the fly many interesting, very good looking, pretty little things. Actually, there are no such things in his parlor. He is only making up stories to attract the fly. "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "to ask me is in vain, for who goes up your winding stair can never come down again." So the fly is on her guard. The fly is female. The fly is on her guard and she says, "No, no, no, I will not go. You are asking me in vain," meaning to say it is useless to ask me to come into your parlor because I am not interested in going. Because I know very well that one who goes up that winding staircase of yours never comes down. So the fly is aware of the fact that the spider is dangerous, and anybody who goes into the spider's parlor never returns. So the fly is aware of it. Then, "I'm sure you must be weary, dear." So the next stanza, the spider changes its tactics, and now this time it says, "I'm sure you must be very tired, my dear fly, with soaring up so high," because you have been flying and soaring up into the air so high, so your wings must have grown tired, you must have grown tired. "Will you rest upon my little bed?" said the spider to the fly. So I'm offering you some comfortable rest in my bed. If you come into my parlor, into my bedroom, after the parlor there is probably the bedroom also, so parlor did not attract, so he's talking about the bedroom. Says, "I have a very comfortable bed. You can take some rest in my bedroom. There are pretty curtains drawn around. The sheets are fine and thin." Now, the bed has bedposts on all four corners from which pretty curtains are hanging, and once you get into the bed, I will tuck you in snugly so that you are very comfortable tucked inside your bed, and I'll draw the curtains so that nobody will disturb you and you can have a calm and peaceful rest. So, "Oh, no, no," said the little fly, "for I have often heard it said, 'Then never, never wake again who sleep upon your bed.'" No, no, I am not going, because I have often heard it being said that those who try to go into your room, into your bedroom and try to sleep in your bedroom, they never wake up and they never return again. So I am not going to take such chances of sleeping upon your bed, because once I sleep there, I know, just as it has happened with many before me, the person who, or the one who sleeps in your bed, never wakes up again. Said the cunning spider to the fly. Now the spider once again changes its tactics and says, "Dear friend, what can I do to prove the warm affection I have always felt for you? What can I really do to prove myself that I really admire you, I really love you, I am really affectionate towards you? What can I do to prove it? I have within my pantry good store of all that's nice." So now he's referring to the kitchen. Pantry means kitchen. So in my kitchen, there are lots of nice food stuff. Lots of nice food stuff. So I have in store so many nice things. I'm sure you are very welcome. Will you please to take a slice? So if you just come into my pantry or into my kitchen, there I have the beautiful kitchen table where you can sit down and you can enjoy a slice of good food. I can offer you many things to eat, very delicious things. So you may come inside and you may come to my pantry. So first was parlor, refused by the fly. Then it was bedroom, refused by the fly. So now it's the pantry or the kitchen. And again the little fly says, "Oh, no, no. Kind sir, that cannot be. I've heard what is in your pantry, and I do not wish to see." "Oh, that is not possible, sir. That cannot be done, because I have often heard what is to be found in your kitchen, and I don't want to see." What is to be found in the spider's kitchen? Well, the remains of other dead insects. So the fly says, "I don't want to go there. I don't want to see those remains." Indirectly, that's what the fly means to say. "Sweet creature," said the spider. So again the tactics of the spider changes. "My sweet creature, you're witty and you're wise." So now the flattering words of praise come out of the spider's mouth. The spider is praising the fly, calling the fly witty and wise. "How handsome are your gauzy wings." And the spider goes to the extent of praising the external beauty also of the fly. Now a fly is not really good looking. A fly, in fact, is just another insect. But the spider, the words of the spider, the sugar-coated words of the spider seem to enhance the beauty of the fly. And females are very often flattered by the praise of their external looks. And that is what the spider is applying now. Trying to praise the fly for her beauty, external beauty. "Your wings are gauzy, you are very handsome." That means very good looking. "How brilliant are your eyes. Your eyes are so bright and brilliant, shiny. I have a little looking glass upon my parlor shelf. If you will step in one moment there, you shall behold yourself." Now there's a beautiful mirror in my parlor. There's a shelf in my parlor on which I have kept this beautiful mirror. "Now you are so beautiful. Why don't you come into my parlor and look at yourself in that looking glass? You are so beautiful. It will look so nice if you have a look in that mirror." Behold means to see. "I thank you, gentle sir," she said, "for what you are pleased to say, and bidding you good morning now, I'll call another day." The fly is still on her guard, and the fly says, "Thank you so much for making such an offer, but I really need to go today. I'll meet you some other day. Thank you, bye." So once again the fly cleverly avoids the invitation of the spider. The spider turned him round about and went into his den, for well he knew the silly fly would soon be back again. Now the spider has already applied the medicine, the praise of the fly's external beauty, and the spider knows from its experience, because this is how the spider attracts insects and kills them and eats them. So the spider knows that the fly will soon be back, because it will constantly think about the praise of beauty and then will soon be back. So he wove a subtle web in a little corner sly. Very cleverly, subtle means clever. So in a very clever manner, he made a web in a corner, so that if the fly came back, the spider could easily trap the fly. And set his table ready to dine upon the fly. And he was so sanguine, so sure that the fly would return, that he even set up his table so that he could sit down and have dinner as soon as the fly was back. Then he came out to his door again and merrily did sing, "Come hither, hither, pretty fly, with that pearl and silver wing. Your robes are green and purple. So come here, little pretty fly. You have such a beautiful dress with pearl and silver wings." Okay, your wings are pearly in looks, the color of pearl, the color of silver. So you have such beautiful wings. Your robes are green and purple, and your body, well, referring to the color, the general color of the fly. So it's not a house fly, so it's not black. It's a bigger fly which has a colorful body. So your robes are green and purple. There's a crest upon your head, crest and trough. So a small raised portion. So you must have seen the fly. It has a crest upon its head. So there's a crest upon your head. So he's praising the fly once again for its external looks and beauty. Your eyes are like the diamond bright, but mine are dull as lead. So the spider even goes to the extent of praising the beautiful eyes of the fly, comparing the fly's eyes to diamond. And he says, my eyes are dull like lead, but your eyes are so beautiful like diamond. Now, the fly cannot take it any longer. It's enough. The last of the praise words finally tempts the fly. And let's see what happens. Hearing his wily, flattering words came slowly flitting by. So, alas, alas, how very soon this silly little fly, alas, alas, the poet is expressing grief or sadness because the fly finally falls for the flattering words of the spider. And what does it do? It starts slowly flying towards the spider's web. With buzzing wings she hung aloft, then near and nearer drew, thinking only of her brilliant eyes and green and purple hue. The fly was thinking only about its beauty. The fly was lost in its thoughts and was not sure of what it was doing. The praise of the spider had affected the mind of the fly to such an extent that it was only thinking about its own beauty, the flattering words of the spider, and was off its guard, had completely forgotten that the spider was dangerous, and so it came closer and closer to the spider's web. Thinking only of her crested head, poor foolish thing, at last up jumped the cunning spider and fiercely held her fast. So the spider got its opportunity, suddenly pounced upon the fly and dragged it all the way. He dragged her up his winding stair into his dismal den. Dismal means something which is death-provoking, something which is sad, or something which is grief-stricken, or something which relates to death, something which is really not positive. So the spider drags the fly into the dismal den within his little parlor, but she never came out again. Obviously, she never came back because the spider ate up the fly. So in the last 4 lines of the poem, where we have reached now, the poet is warning little children, and the poet is saying, and now, dear little children, who may this story read, to idle, silly, flattering words, I pray you never give heed. Now, my dear little children, those who are reading this story, rather meaning reading this poem, remember always, don't listen to idle, silly, flattering words. Never pay attention, never pay heed or attention to such words. Unto an evil counselor, close heart and ear and eye. Anyone who tries to give you evil advice, bad or nasty ideas, keep your heart closed, keep your ears closed, and keep your eyes closed. Don't listen, don't see, and don't even feel or take into your heart whatever an evil person says to you. Never listen to the words of someone with evil intentions. Counselor means advisor, or one who suggests something. And take a lesson from this tale of the spider and the fly. And take a lesson, learn your lesson from this story of the spider and the fly, which I have just now told you. So the poet is saying that. So with that, we come to the end of the poem, The Spider and the Fly, written by a very eminent British female poet of the 18th century, and her name is Mary Botham Howitt. So I hope you have understood. Now please go through the theme and all other things that are given in your workbook. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.